Hey everyone, it's MK. Welcome back. So, question for you. Have you ever stitched a pantograph that all of a sudden made your machine kind of go herky-jerky? That's a really technical term. Well, I was stitching a pantograph the other day and my machine was doing that. And I have a few steps that I do in my studio to calm that whole process down. Well, it made me think I really should share those tips with you. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go back to that pantograph that I was using, the very same one, and I'm going to show you 3 options. We're going to start a little bit differently today. I'm going to show you the machine stitching, and I'm first going to show you what was happening when I left my machine purely in default settings. The second example I'm going to show you is a few minor adjustments that I made to my Pro Stitcher machine. I'm going to adjust the speed settings in the advanced menu, and I'm going to adjust my cruise setting. And you're going to see that that's going to make a little bit of a difference, but it didn't make as much of a difference as I ultimately wanted. And so in option number 3, I'm going to show you where, again, I adjust my Pro Stitcher settings and my cruise settings, but I also am going to take the pattern into Art and Stitch. I'm just going to do a very few, very simple things in Art and Stitch. Now, I know that some of you mentioned to me online and in the comment section that you don't have Art and Stitch. And please keep in mind that these videos are really meant to be very much Pro Stitcher heavy. I'm only going to show you Art and Stitch a few times for a few things because I think a little bit of knowledge with Art and Stitch can help you with your Pro Stitcher functionality. So if you have Art and Stitch, option number 3 is going to be what you want to do to calm your herky-jerky machine. All right, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to let you watch my machine stitch. And remember, this first option is merely default settings on basically a medium speed and cruise set at 200. Here we go. Wow, option number 1. My machine was pretty herky-jerky, wasn't it? And I want to mention to you that the pattern that I'm using has a lot of straight lines, a lot of change in direction, a lot of overstitching, and I had cropped it. So there's a lot going on in this pattern, and the default settings just weren't doing what I wanted it to do on this pattern. Now, I was able to slow the machine down a little bit, and I think that you saw that that helped out somewhat. But this is a very intense pattern, and if I slow my machine down, it's going to take me a long time to stitch out this pattern. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk about option number 2. In this next option, what I have done is I've adjusted my machine just slightly. I went into my cruise setting and I upped that a little bit. On my Infinity, I upped it to about 275 from the default setting, which was 200. The other thing that I did was I went into my advanced menu and I changed my speed setting. On the smooth factor, I upped that from the default, which was 1, to 2.2. And we're going to go over that in simulation. All right, so in this example, the speed on the actual machine, I upped it a little bit just to see if the adjustments I made on the machine, I could compensate and speed up the machine a little bit. So here we go. Option number 2. So option number 2 was better, wasn't it? But it still wasn't exactly what I wanted on this pattern. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you inside of simulation. I'm going to show you those settings that I adjusted, and I'm also going to take the pattern into Art and Stitch, do a couple of very, very simple little things. We're going to bring it back to the machine, and then I'm going to show you the stitching on option number 3, and you're going to be amazed. All right, let's go into simulation, and I'll meet you right back here.
To pull this up in simulation just to tell you what I was using. This lovely pattern is called Curly Cues and Snowflakes, and it's by Nancy Hackey from Wasatch Quilting, and I just love it. Okay, I'm going to take you right now immediately into Art and Stitch. We're going to do a few minor adjustments, and then I'm going to meet you back here and talk you through some of the changes that you'll want to make at your Pro Stitcher before you actually stitch. All right, let's go into Art and Stitch. All right, here we are inside of Art and Stitch. I usually don't work with the navigation screen, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to open up my pattern. Here it is. And remember, we want to convert it to outlines so that we can make changes. And I'm going to open it as an untitled design. All right, so there we go, just like it appeared in the Pro Stitcher. Very first thing we're going to do is we want to make sure that we select whatever's on our screen. Now, before I do that, I just want to mention that I'm working with a very small portion of this pattern, and I've already cropped it off on the top edge. So again, remember that I usually like to work with my pantographs at a very wide width, and then crop them off. And sometimes when you're opening up a pattern like that in Art and Stitch, it's going to take a little while for your computer to do all of that. So just be patient, let it open, and this is what you'll have. All right, so we want to select everything. Make sure we select everything, and we're going to do a Control-A. That's our Select All, or we can go through Edit and Select All. All right, right now this pattern has stitches assigned to it because we brought it over from Pro Stitcher. We want to go ahead and turn this back to artwork so that we can work with it. So this is the back to artwork button right there. And if I go over here onto sequence view, click this arrow, you can now see that this is a piece of artwork. Later on, we're going to put stitches back on it, and we're going to take it back to Pro Stitcher. All right, here's the one very simple little step that you're going to do. Right click over here in your pattern. All right, so here's the one little step that you can take that's going to make all the difference in the world. We're going to select the pattern and we're going to right click. And we're going to come down here to this option that says Simplify Smoothen. I'm just going to click that. I'm going to leave these settings at whatever the default settings are. If you know a bit more about Art and Stitch, you might feel like you want to change those a bit. I'm going to leave it at the default and I'm going to hit OK. And you might see a very, very small change happen on your screen. Art and Stitch is going through and it's trying to smooth out all of those lines. So it might just change for you just a little bit on your screen. And there I can see that just slightly it's changed now. All right, that's all I want to do. Now I want to take it back to Pro Stitcher. But because I had made it artwork, before I'm going to be able to stitch it again, I need to assign stitches. So I want to make sure I've done a select all. This is the apply stitches. And again, if this is a very large pattern, that might take a little bit of time to work. Once it's done assigning the stitches, I'm just going to save it. And we'll call this our Art and Stitch fixed file. Then we can easily identify it when we get back to our Pro Stitcher. All right, that was an Art and Stitch file I saved it to. Let's go ahead and save it as an HQF file. Yes, we don't care about the hoop size right now for this application, and we're good to go. All right, I'm going to meet you back inside a Pro Stitcher simulation. We'll talk about the Pro Stitcher adjustments, and then I'm going to let you watch it stitch out. All right, we're back at Pro Stitcher. If we had left the other pattern open, we want to go ahead and close it now. This is not the one we want. We want to go ahead and open that one that we fixed. There it is, ANS fixed file. That's what we want. All right, let's talk about the adjustments that you want to make at your Pro Stitcher. Okay, you're back at your machine now. You've gotten this pattern pulled up. What you want to do is go over under your settings menu. You want to look for the advanced menu, open it up, go down to speed profile. We're going to come over here, make sure we click on default. If it's not, just click on default. And then we want to go over here and click on advanced. And this is the one and only change that I'm going to make in this screen is the smoothing factor. And I've been taking it from 1 to about 2.1 or 2.2. So let's go ahead and take it on 2.1. Now the other setting I can't show you right here. It's a setting that you'll have to do at your machine. All of our machines are a little bit different when it comes to the regulated mode and the cruise mode as far as what the settings are and where you get to those settings. Just know that before I stitched this, I went into my Infinity cruise speed control and I upped that to about 275 from the default of 200. All right, so if I was at my machine with this, I would go ahead and baseline. I would make sure that I saved it, and then I'm going to stitch. All right, I'm going to let Pro Stitcher Simulator run through this a little bit, and as we fade out to the machine, you're going to see what a difference a little bit of Simplify and Smoothen can make.
Wow, how about that option number 3? I hope that you can see with just a few adjustments on your Pro Stitcher and a little bit of time spent in Art and Stitch can make all the difference in the world. Just a little bit of Simplify, a little bit of Smoothen, and you can take the herky jerky right out of your stitching on some of those patterns. So give it a try and let me know your feedback. Until next time, everybody, from my studio to yours, happy quilting. Bye-bye.